Alright, welcome back to the Hoosier Garage, and we are working on the sunroof again, and this will be the last part on the sunroof. It's not too complex. It's just some things that we're going to go over and kind of feeling our way through the dark on a used, vintage sunroof and making it work again. And when you have these old seals and old methods of using silicone and stuff in these channels that, obviously really don't work that well, at least when applied in certain human standards, then we need to rethink it a little bit. So as I talked about in the last one, I got a trunk weather strip for a Camaro Firebird circa what is that, about 70 through 81, that era. So the trunk weather strip, $15 for the whole thing, and it's got this profile on it. And what I had was some extra pieces that I fit in here, and it seemed to fit really nice. So I went ahead and spent 15 bucks and ordered a brand new weather strip for those model of cars. And the reason I had that was because I used to have an 81 Camaro. So it's good to keep little snippets of weather strip around for profiles, in case you might need it for something. And this one here, I got it today, and I stuck it in the channel and seen how it fits, and it looks really good. Actually, it looks kind of like a factory deal. And one reason I was really observing with it out of the vehicle, and I haven't cut it yet, that's why I have all this extra, which is cool because we can always use it for something else. But if you look in here, right here we have it in the channel. Now there is a groove that is, move that out of the way. There is a groove that is right here, okay? Now when you pull this out, see that? This little edge right here, you can actually make that kind of click in there. Now with the overall profile, this will be looking at it in reverse of this. You have this little kind of flap down when you put the glass down. That's what this will do here. It'll push down against this little edge, which is actually pretty cool. It's almost like it was designed for it. And then you have enough of this bump up on the back, which would be where my thumb is here. That would be this part here, and it kind of sets up against this frame. So my thought on adhesive is use weather strip adhesive. That's a 3M. I need to go get some, and we'll show you that. But my main thing is to go ahead and put it on this flat part of the bottom of the channel, and also put it up here on this edge. That way when water is introduced to this edge, because the glass will be about where my fingernail is, there will be a little gap. So when the water is introduced at edge, it won't flow down in here and set up against our weather strip, okay? And then fill up and then possibly, break through it and come over and leak. Not likely, but it's actually a little bit overkill, but why not in a situation like this where they traditionally leak? So we'll put some up here. That should help shield it. Then as you're going down the road or anything, it'll kind of pick it up and blow it back out. It won't be that deep. And I might even think about putting some on the inside of this rail here for that extra little piece there, okay? You'd be using quite a bit, but when you're thinking about what we have at stake here, why not? So we'll see how it glues in, and if I need to, I'll put some in there. Now I'm probably going to go ahead and cut this, and you can see right here, if you pull that out, this is the part that's in that inner groove, and it don't take much to just tuck it in there, okay? So we'll poke that into place. And another little tip, if you're not used to using weather strip, is you don't want to stretch it, especially if you're coming around these corners or you're coming down through here. Don't pull on it and then stick it down in there. Let it have its natural set to it. So for instance, if I'm right here, and I'll even pull it back to back here. If I pull it back to there, and sometimes you do this by habit, but if you go to stick it in there, I'm pulling on it right now. Well, don't do that, because I think what will happen is over time, if it dries up a little bit, just naturally, or it sets, it might shrink down because there's less material there to keep it puffed up. So, if you do it in a small area, you can actually pull it back and you can see it kind of moving there. So let it have its natural puff. Okay, that'll give as much weather strip as you need. And so just try to be wise on that. Now this back corner, like I said, it'll probably have some glue in there when we go to put that in, but we want it to get it to set the way it really needs to. So I'm just gonna tuck it in, push it straight down, not push ahead on it. That will also stretch it. And when I go to clip this, I don't want to clip it back here because it might shrink, like I said. So I'm just gonna cut it probably about 1/4 inch beyond. So I'm gonna, this part here, instead of cutting it right here, I'm gonna bring it this way, cut it, and then I'll try to stuff it in. If it's too much, then I'll just trim it back just a little bit. And see, I cut it about 1/4 inch over, like I said. See, it has this little wobble to it. It's in there pretty tight. So this is telling you it's binding, so I'll just pull it out a little bit and then trim just a hair off of that and just keep fitting it until it fits in there nice and snug, but it doesn't have any distortion in the channel that goes all the way around. And just as a note, I'm gonna cut. Looks good there, right? So we'll also glue the ends together, okay? Keep that in mind, that's important. So get that tucked in. But this is the extra hangover. So if I bring it around here to a mark right there, bring it all the way around evenly. Bring this one around. We have a little bit extra, which is good. So that if we have any other sunroofs, say we got 2 of these, or you have 2 of them, you'll have enough to do 2 sunroofs with one 70 through 81 Camaro Firebird trunk seal. And that may not work on all sunroofs, but it seemed like it's working good on this one. We'll see. So okay, so I reattached the glass to it, which just hooks in and clamps on via these guys right here. And it looks like we got a pretty good seal. So if we knock the little levers in, get into place here, latch it. It don't feel loose like it did before. Right there. So we have a pretty good seal all the way around. And part of the, it distorts a little bit since it's not glued in. So you see it'll draw it right here. Might not even show up actually, but it actually has a nice smooth finish all the way around. And on the inside, pretty tight. The glass doesn't rattle, or you can't really push it out that easy. So I think we did good on that. And you notice this seal here is well against this frame and then against the glass, so it's not like super tight, which it shouldn't be, but it's like down here you'll notice that it kind of clamps in there good. Okay, so with the sunroof out, we're going to clean up our awful job that we did here. It's just where everything's kind of frayed. I'll do it top and bottom. The top we'll be careful about since that's where the paint is, and we don't want to extend beyond where it'll, you know, the edge of the trim is for the sunroof. So we'll do this part. Take off any extra little burr left. And remember, I'm not going too far into the red. You probably got a good inch around it, but just be conservative with it, and we'll seal it up with some paint. remove any of the loose where the heat from the grinding wheel got into it. So it doesn't trap any water. So here's a good spot. These corners where we did the radius, a little more flaky there. The sanding disc I was using was 40 grit, so it's a little rough. So the aging will really help smooth it out pretty good. Now to paint, seal it, all that stuff, we'll just use Eastwood rust encapsulator. Eastwood rust encapsulator. And since we've sanded some of this and gotten it nice and rough, it'll give it a nice surface to adhere to. And it'll seal it up. So then we put our butyl seal on here. Have something to grab to that'll be a nice mechanical adhesion. I'm not one for words today, so pardon me. And do this stuff on both sides, top and bottom. Top, you know, don't be crazy with it again, because there's your show area, so to say, so to speak, so to say. Like I said, not a day for it. Not too thick, not too thin. Once I go around one time, don't get yourself in it where you make a mess. Stop or start here. Go around carefully, cover any of the bare metal. Okay, so you will see here that I have some primer I went ahead and put around here. I did it just like I did the encapsulator. I mixed it up, and it's a 2-part epoxy primer, obviously. Just a very small amount, enough to put in a cup. And I just dabbed it on around here. Now, this is just a finalization, I guess, just in case you got anything that might happen to show around the edge. I went ahead and mixed up some of our red paint, and I did it just like you would to spray. I just poured a little bit in there, a couple teaspoons if anything, and then went ahead and put some hardener in there, mixed it up real good, and we are ready to just brush some on. I did not reduce it at all. You really don't want to. It'll be way too runny, way too thin, won't look right. So you might as well use it full strength here, and this way you can kind of blend it back in. Once you put it on here like this, kind of splash it on, then you can go through and tap it on, and that'll help it kind of even out. You will get the brush strokes out of it. If you want to go to the extra effort, you can tape everything off and repaint this edge. You can tape it off beforehand and do it. I would advise that if you did decide to tape all this off and then brush it on, I would not tape off the primer or the encapsulator coats. I would just only do the red, because if you go and decide to buff it down later, that little ridge that would set up next to your paint line, that will sand out and you'll have a little gray or black, or it basically won't be the color of your top coat, and it'll be all for naught. So I would suggest doing it that way with the tape line only when you're doing the color, or just do it this way, the way we're doing it now. Ideally, what I should have done is decided on the sunroof earlier before we painted the roof here. And then all this would have been painted evenly, professionally. But I did think that, well, a lot of you guys, if you decided to do something like this, or make just a general cut, even if it isn't a sunroof, do some sort of a repair on the roof where it's kind of inconspicuous, you can get by doing it this way, and you would already have paint on there anyways. So, sticky right there. I'll have to start evacuating the hole here and go to the sides. Now once this one dries, we'll just take a look at it. And I would imagine it should be ready to put our seal on, our butyl seal, and then put the sunroof back in. And just remember, anytime I'm doing stuff like this, don't so much take it as, you know, the way that it is. I don't really look at it as this is the way it should be ultimately, but when you're in compromising situations doing a restoration, sometimes you have to resort to ideas. I'm just trying to help you out with ideas. This is not the definitive way to do anything, because in a lot of situations, the definitive way would be to wet sand this whole thing down, and I'm talking like the roof, and try to blend your paint in and all that. And a lot of us just don't have the time, effort, or money to do that. And we should be pretty good. All right, so we've got the whole assembly inside, nice warm inside and not very warm outside. It's probably 30 degrees out, so thought I'd bring this in, give it a chance for the glue to dry well. And this is the glue. It's the 3M black super weather strip adhesive. You can also get the stuff they call Gorilla Snot or whatever it is. It's like yellow. That works just as good. But I got the bigger tubes is what they had in the black. So I'm you know, laying this out again. We made sure the channel was nice and clean, degreased it and everything. And one cool thing to do is, if you get this weather strip having this odd shape to it, you can try it a few different ways, and it actually works pretty good if you put it in completely upside down too. I just think as far as the way that it would hinge back here, it would not allow it to rest against it the proper way. So you can always do that. It might give you a better option than what you maybe figured initially. In this case, I don't think it would work. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay this out about like it should be. The seam on the actual frame is over here. I'm going to put the seam on the weather strip over here. Not that that matters a lot, it just keeps you from having so many weak areas in one spot. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. Ooh, it's ready to go too. So I would say the main thing is just keep a nice even flow all the way around. Try not to get a little thin spot, because then you will get a leak. Cool thing about this frame, you can kind of just let it ride on it until you get these little bracket slots. I'm going to hold that for a second and let this pull out. There we go. Okay. And then we will continue putting it right down the middle. Give yourself enough of a bead, that's the main thing. Don't just try to run away with it. This stuff is pretty loose, but not too loose to run away from you. It just likes to kind of cling. Okay, so there's our seam all the way around, or our sealer. And where the seam is in the actual frame, I ran some up the side, because even though you have a seal that'll be on the body that could help prevent anything, but there could be just a little spot. So I just ran some up the seam, up to the edge, and that should help contain it there if you get some water in there. All the way around. Pretty solid. There's where the seam was. And a lot of this, when you put the weather strip in there, it'll flatten it out and make an even wider seal. My main thing is just to get the bottom stuck down in there first, and then we'll try to finesse it in as we get after we get the whole thing in. Again, you don't want to stretch this at any point because it'll diminish any seal, because you'll be making it thinner in that spot that you stretch it. Now, one thing we can do here, take a little bit of the sealer, pull this back out a little bit, and just completely seal the end. It's real foamy on the end where it was been cut. So I'm just going to put a healthy dose all the way around that. There. See that? I'll go ahead and put a little bit on this side just to give you a little extra. Okay. Hold in a little bit and try to connect them together. Put this away for the time being. Now we have it all set in here, and as an equivalent of putting it in evenly, like if you had a smaller piece, like a gasket that you put in, you just put on, click. That's where we're at right now. I'm going to go ahead now, since we have that little lip in there, I'm going to use that to my advantage right now to hold it down and just tuck it in behind there where it kind of fits into that. Around these edges, make sure that it's pushed down where the edge meets up. See, it's kind of high right here, so let's make sure that's down. You can also hook the glass back in here, clamp it down like you normally would, and that would help too. And I might even do that. Just depends on how well it sets here. Okay, so this is set up pretty quick. So far so good. If I push this out carefully, I do open that up. So I think I will take some more of this, and I'll just gradually open that up and put some all the way around. And you can do it just by basically opening it up and just doing a steady hand all the way around and putting the nozzle of it, or the opening, I don't know, about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch down over the side, and just let it kind of fill a little bit. Sticky. I don't want to make a mess, so I'll try to open this up right here. I'll start in the middle. And you can actually see the bead as you just drag it down through there. And I would say, much like you did the track, you want it to be consistent. I did was I brought the sunroof in earlier today, and I brought this in, which is the ribbon sealer that we're going to use. And you can get this at a lot of stores that carry body shop supplies, things like that, you know, window, because it's auto glass replacement. This used to be kind of the go-to replacement gasket or sealer back in the day, but actually it's been outlawed since for that use. You can use it for other things like we're about to use here, but for windshields they've ultimately kind of banned it. And the advantage to this is that it's already in a pre-made size. Here you see the round bead, you can get it at 3/8 by 15. It's 15 feet. You get like 5/16, kind of a multitude of sizes. They had a 3/8, and it was only like, I think, $10 for this whole thing. And there's a part number for it if you need that. It comes with setting blocks for if you do put a glass in, but I would advise just having the glass put in with urethane as it should be. But I think the thing about them was that they got cold, and then they got into a hard enough wreck. A lot of times the glass would pop out. There wouldn't be a sufficient seal. Hot weather, no, definitely not, because it gets very sticky. So anyways, here's the windshield, or the not the windshield, the sunroof. Okay, now I made sure to clean out this channel. They had some old silicone in here, which was a big no-no, but hey, that's what everybody did. So got all that out. It looks a little ugly, but it's very clean though otherwise. So I'm gonna put the ribbon in here, and we're just gonna put one seal all the way around, and wherever we butt it back together, we're going to make sure that we have it just as even as the rest of it, and just kind of weld it back together. Okay, kind of like how they did their seam here on the aluminum. Another thing, on the roof of the van, we have a couple of ridges that are little drops in it, so we'll have to make up for those as well. So we'll have to kind of double it and kind of play sculptor with it. And I'll pull this out and you'll see what it comprises of. And as you can see there, it's just a little spool almost. Hear it? Sticky. So it's been in there all day. If it would have been cold, you would have been able to touch it, and it would not have stuck to you at all. So I'm going to stretch this around here, lay it into this corner basically where it would set against the metal. Okay, and when you go to put this in, you're going to sandwich it together with the frame underneath, which that's the one that we have in pieces. It'll compress it, and then it'll allow this to squeeze out almost to the edge. I'll go ahead and start there, and you just do it whatever way is easier for you. Now this is a 3/8 ribbon. Might be a little thick, but it can always be trimmed once it's in place, because it's not it's not like rubber where it's a set shape. Actually got a piece right here. You can, squish it up pretty good, and we can use that for filler. But we should have enough. We have 15 feet here. And really at this moment I'm just getting it laid into the track. I'm not trying to do anything final. I don't want to stretch it. If I'm hanging on it here, I don't want to stretch it, because it'll lose that thickness that you will have as an advantage. I'll lay that up there as we come around to meet it together. I'm going to peel this back. Here's the edge of it right here. I actually want to cut like just barely beyond it. that. That's how much we got left. You can see right here, I'm just gonna peel that back a little bit. Work it in there, and then when you go, you can mush these together. You can use like a popsicle stick if you have to, or well, here I'm just using my fingers, so drag it over each other like that. I should do it there. Okay. If you give it a nice general stick, it won't pull up on you. Now this is the good time to not get crazy with it. Don't push it in too far, but just make sure it's all tacked in against the corner of your frame. Like that. Make sure nothing's pulling away. And there we go. All right, so ready for the moment of the truth here. I went ahead and took the glass back out. It's much easier to install without it. I'm gonna slip it up. Getting a good idea how sticky that stuff is, right? So these gaps right here, I'm gonna have to fill them with some more of the butyl. You just have to do a buildup of it. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna get everything squeezed down by hand the best I can here. Now with this being 3/8 ribbon, window weld, whatever, it might, when we start getting it compressed, it might come out a little bit. If it does, it just takes some, like a plastic knife, like what you get in a, you know, for your cookouts, that sort of thing. And you can just cut evenly along here. Probably do it when it's not hot and when it's not cold like this, which is like 25 degrees. But if you did it when it's, you know, maybe in the 50s, that'd be ideal. Okay, so I'm still trying to mash this down, but the problem I'm having right now is the cold. It gets cold kind of quick, and I'll take the heat gun and heat this up, this setup quite a bit higher. And you can see it squishing out here. Well, that's after I put the heat gun on it. And I was able to draw the screws down some more, and it was pretty tight up to that point. So then they went in really good there, and so it's just, you know, slowly compressing. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start filling this area here, which there would be a gap there. So because it's right up against the frame. So this one I cut it the width of the rib a little bit wider actually, and so I'll just slip it in there. And this is one of those things where you can you know, kind of pretty it up a little bit later, you know. So I'm just gonna kind of meld it into the one that's in there, and then, you know, like I said, you're being a sculptor with this sort of thing. Try to do it as clean as you can so that later you won't have as much to clean up. And then I'll just try to mold it in the corners there. Just think water. Anything water will roll off. It won't get into any crevices or anything like that. And then I'll take, like I said, a plastic utensil knife, and you can just slice this off right here. Just saw it. I have the little teeth. You can saw it, peel it up, and clean it up that way. But a lot of this, in time, I'll just have to gradually bring it down. So this side has a little bit higher lift to it than that side. I was just working on this a little bit, got it down some. So there's not as much squeezing out here yet. But we'll have that the update of that part on a later video. We're getting down to, most of you are going to be doing this in warm weather anyways, not so much in the cold. I'm always doing something like this, so I'll try to squeeze this up here to the frame and get it to tack. There you go. There we go. Nice and solid. Seal touches all the way around. So I guess we're just gonna have to test it like down the road when we get it wet and all that. Get a good rain on it. But it's clamped down really tight. And like I said, I'll trim up all the butyl that's sticking out. Try to get the compress on it a little bit tighter, more flush. But it's a little bit of a job, but I think you just gotta think ahead, think with what you got, and then we'll wipe this thing down, get some Windex on it, clean this roof off, and move on with it. So I guess that'll conclude part 2 of installing a vintage sunroof. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of it, or entertainment of some sort, since we couldn't get it squished down and it's 25 degrees out. Yeah, but it can be done. As far as like the leaking and all that, I guess we'll find out. That's the big thing. I know on the body side of it, it should be absolutely good. Usually in a lot of cases it's the seal itself, the rubber seal to the glass. So we'll find out in time. And if you like what we got going on here on the page, make sure you check out all the stuff in the link below in our description. We've got some cool t-shirts. Mopar Nuts 62 is the latest edition. We added his 71 Charger on a shirt and decal, and we got some other cool rides. We got this van in complete form. You're looking into the future on that one, so make sure you check it out and come back again, and make sure if you haven't subscribed. We really appreciate it. Y'all take care.